Money you can always earn more of, time you can't. The thing is, when you're aging and you're losing muscle, especially women, because of this estrogen loss, our bodies really start to decline. And to reverse the decline, the sooner you can get started.
What's up, everybody? I am here with a special woman. I want you to meet Lynn Sederlof, a certified menopause fitness coach and host of the 40 Plus Fitness for Women podcast. After experiencing the changes of menopause firsthand, she found the key to regaining strength, energy, and confidence through strength training. Now she helps women 40 and older do the same. Lynn is on a mission to debunk fitness myths and show women how to thrive in midlife and beyond. Welcome, Lynn.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Brian.
Excellent. We're going to just jump right into it. First question, and the question that I think is on all of our listeners' minds, I will tell you, our listeners are either women, either going through this, having gone through this and want to know more, or they're thinking about going through it, or they're men who connected to women who are experiencing these things. So just jump right into it. How does perimenopause affect weight gain, metabolism, and muscle mass?
All right. So this is a huge question. And those are three very, very important issues. So I want to kind of tackle that starting from the metabolism part. Okay. So because I think a lot of women, myself included, felt like, oh my gosh, my metabolism has slowed down in midlife. And then they start thinking like, it's just something I need to live with forever. I'm always going to be heavier and all this. And that is actually not the case. And we can look at a study that they did of people of all ages where they measured their metabolisms. And these were people of all ages, all the way from small children to like 80-year-old grandparents. And what they found actually was, okay, children were a little bit of a group of their own, and sure, people over 60 started to be a little bit different. But basically from about 20 to 60, people's metabolisms did not change if their muscle mass remained the same. So age is not the thing that's slowing down your metabolism. Menopause is not the thing that's slowing it down. It's that you are actually losing muscle mass. So that comes to the second part about, the muscle, is that your muscle is actually declining as you get older, all the way from somewhere in your 20s. And it declines at a rate of 3 to 8% per decade. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but then over the years, it adds up. And when you hit perimenopause, that rate actually speeds up. And I think what catches a lot of women by surprise, and for sure me, was that you kind of don't notice this happening gradually. Yep. Then it speeds up a little. You're so busy with your life and your kids and your career and all that. Then you finally have a breather as your kids start to get a little older. You start looking at yourself and you're like, oh my gosh, what happened to all my muscles that I used to have? And they're just like gone. So the problem is we're losing the muscle, which is a very vital part of our metabolism. Our basal metabolic rate, the BMR, is how much energy our bodies consume just laying around the house. And as you lose your muscle mass, your basal metabolic rate goes down. So you actually need to then start eating less, unless you're going to, try to maintain and build more muscle. And then the other thing that happens in midlife is that we move less. You're just like your daily amount of movement. You're not chasing little kids anymore. Perimenopause is exhausting for a lot of women. You just don't have energy. And so you're burning less calories that way as well. So all of these kind of add up to the fact that you're consuming more calories than your body needs in a day. And that is what is bringing on the weight gain. And then kind of the final big part of this is that as your estrogen levels decline, estrogen is a hormone which has been affecting our fat distribution in our bodies. And as that disappears, then our fat starts to move from other places in our body to our midsection. It starts to collect there. And so you kind of have this compounding effect of you're gaining weight overall, and then the place where you gain weight is moving from being all over your body, your boobs, your butt, your thighs, to being more around your waist. And so then you really feel it.
Okay. That's depressing. Just to summarize a little bit, what I heard was as we get older, and I'm a math person, at least my wife is a chemical engineer, so to her, I'm not a
Oh,
math person, but the normal people, I'm a math
yep.
person. So we said 3 to 5% per
3 to
decade. So
8. Yeah.
let's say 5%. Let's say I lose 5% of muscle mass per decade. And just to make it simple, I know it's not linear, but let's assume it was linear. It's 0.5% per year, right? And if I am, let's say 125 pounds, I am 15 to 20, let's say 20% body fat. Now I've got roughly 100 pounds of lean mass. I know a lot of mass stuff, a lot of going on
Yeah.
there, but if I'm at 100 pounds lean mass and I'm only losing half a pound a year of lean mass, I'm not going to notice, right? Not until 10 years later, I've lost 5 pounds of lean mass. Maybe it takes another 5 years. Now I'm at 7.5 pounds of lean mass that I've lost. Now, man or woman at this point, I look in my mirror and I have what I call my mirror moment. It's my moment. I look in the mirror and I go, what has happened?
Yep.
What has happened? This is bad. And not only is it bad, but it's not going to naturally get better, right? I'm
No.
not going to just
It's just
naturally,
going to keep going down.
it's just
And
going to keep going down. So I got to make a change.
yeah. And not only are you losing that muscle mass, is that, people are not getting lighter as they get older, right? Not in our society. Their scale weight is staying the same or it's going up, which means that while you're losing that lean muscle mass, you're gaining fat on your body, because it isn't bone density that you're gaining either, right?
Yep. Yeah. And I think you bring up an amazing point that I think most people miss, which is, and I have a feeling we're going to get into this. We haven't, but if we're not gaining muscle, even if we only gain 2 to 3 pounds a year, but we're losing half a pound to a pound a year of lean mass, muscle and bone density, then we have actually gained 4 to 5 pounds of fat, right? We've gained more fat than we thought because we're just looking on a scale. Right. And, when we shrink our lean mass, that's less surface area for the fat to distribute itself. Right. And so even if it were to distribute evenly on our body, which it doesn't when we get older, it goes around our bellies. Even then, if it did, we would still look worse.
Yep, exactly.
Right. Okay. So we've identified the issue. Okay. So we're losing muscle mass. We're losing bone density. Our hormones are changing. And by I mean women going through perimenopause. Okay, this sounds dire. And our listeners are, anyone is going, yes, this sounds very familiar. Now what? What do I just give up?
Yeah. So, I mean, you talked about the mirror moment, and that is exactly, I had that mirror moment. It's funny. I've never heard anybody say it. Like, I'm going to borrow that phrase from now on.
Absolutely.
But, being somebody who had always been athletic and toned and all this, I remember I was like brushing my teeth one day, and I was used to like my arms and then seeing a little bit of the muscle as you're moving your toothbrush. And then I caught a glance of myself, it's like yourself as a stranger. And I was like, what? And I really got kind of desperate. Like, what do I do now? Because the thing is that a lot of us are exercising. I mean, of course, there are people that aren't exercising, but a lot of women are exercising religiously 5 days a week, going to group fitness classes, running, boot camp, F45, Orange Theory, whatever. And still this happens. And the cure is really to build muscle. Okay. And and the thing is that if you're like I was, I mean, I thought I was taking care of my muscles. I was going to body pump classes religiously.
After I had my mirror moment, I trained for a 5K. I'm sorry, I trained for a 10K. Trained 10K, did the 10K, and then joined the Y. Started lifting weights on my own, but I went to body pump and body attack. That was where I started my fitness journey, more or less.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing though is that, okay, if you haven't had any touch point with weights, the body pump is something, right?
It is better than sitting on the couch.
Yes, it is better than sitting on the couch. But even better than doing the body pump would be to just cut through that stage of slowly doing something to proper weight training. And I think...
Can you, say that again. So you can skip that step.
Yes.
Right.
And go straight to proper strength training, because you just are going to get to your result so much faster. I mean, I think like for me, I realized this so clearly because I was going to body pump and I probably like you training as hard as you could. I mean, I was there lifting more weight than the other ladies. I was doing, bicep curls with 5 kilo weights. And then when I started, and I was doing that for like years, with those 5 kilo weights. And then when I started proper strength training, it was not long before I was, using 10 kilo weights. And that just demonstrates like you can do 3 years of kind of pedaling in place, or you can just get going with it and start achieving something. And that's when I finally got my biceps, my arms back, which is great.
Yeah. And I try to tell people, anyone who will listen to anything I say, which is, look, you can go through the process. You can do what I did. You can train and run, right? Because I couldn't run. I needed to improve my heart and lung capacity. So I grew up athletic and a runner, and I reached the point as part of my mirror moment, I could not run more than half a mile without stopping. And I was like, that's not good. But yeah, I did train. And then I went to Body Attack. I went to Body Pump. I went to boot camp. I went to, where we're using these little light dumbbells or a light kettlebell. I did the jump rope. Like I did the rower. I did those things. And you can do that too. You can go through that process, or you can skip wasting the 4 to 5 years of your life and just jump straight into weightlifting, like lifting heavy weights, right? And it's how much is heavy? Well, I get into the set of 5. Like I don't generally, if you're starting out, I don't like you starting out with a 1 rep max, right?
Yeah.
But let's get into, if you can do it 20 times, it's too light.
Yeah. And the thing with, okay, I guess there are 2 things I would say to that. Absolutely. You want to be lifting heavy, and it is a journey to get to the point where you're actually lifting heavy. Okay. And I guess.
Love it.
That's something to kind of clarify, like the term heavy, because always for you to make progress, you need to be pushing your body a little bit, right? And when you're weight training, you generally work in like rep ranges. And the more reps, like if I said to you, you've got to pick up this thing and you only have to like lift it twice versus you need to lift it 20 times and you can choose what weight you pick up, you're going to pick up something much lighter if you have to lift it 20 times than if you lift it only twice, right? So that's one aspect of heavy. And that's when you eventually want to get to the point where you're doing less reps, and so you're picking up that heavier weight. But on your journey to get there, because, and especially I think for women, because what menopause does to us when estrogen leaves our bodies, estrogen's been doing amazing things to maintain our bodies. It has been allowing us to maintain, helping us to maintain our muscle, allowing us to build muscle. It's been taking care of our bones. When we go through menopause, we lose 10 times, our bone density decreases 10 times faster in the 5 years around menopause than what it has been doing before then. Plus our tendons and ligaments, estrogen has been keeping them nice and, lubricated and functioning well and so that they can support our joints. And then when estrogen leaves, there's the instability in the joints, your bones are getting more brittle, your muscles aren't as strong, your muscle contractions aren't as strong. So for that reason, it actually is really important for women to start off with those bigger rep ranges. So it's like a relatively lighter, weight that they're lifting. And then as they get stronger, as their body gets back, as they get the tendons and ligaments and bones and everything back into, being strong, then they can shift over to doing the shorter rep ranges with the, relatively heavier weights.
Okay. Now, when, we both kind of have this, we're talking to someone kind of in our mind. How important is it for a woman who isn't very super familiar with weight training? How important is it, or what are options for a coach? Or should she just go and find a gym and just start lifting?
So I think you should definitely get a program. If you think about it, like a lot of women have, for example, a goal of running a marathon or something. They're not going to just be like, okay, I'll just wing it. They're going to be like, hey, I need to get ready for this marathon. How should I do this? And then they're going to go get a marathon coach or join a little running group or whatever. And they're going to get the instructions that this is the best way to get to that goal. It is the same thing with weight training. Yeah, you could try to do it on your own. You're just going to get there safer, faster, and better. If you have somebody who understands how to get you there and can kind of give you the blueprint to do it. And I think especially if you think about weight training, I mean, one of the things I see so often, and it always makes me kind of sad, is women who make it into the weight room. They're there. I mean, I go to the weight room so much that I recognize like new faces in there.
Yep.
And they're kind of like, oh, and they test out this machine and they test out that machine. And, they've gotten so far by actually getting themselves in there. And then it's like they don't know what to do, or they're maybe doing two machines that are working exactly the same muscles, or I just always feel like, oh my God, please just invest and get the program, because otherwise, you're spending all this time. Your time is worth something as well, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in getting a coach. Getting a coach like skips a couple of things. First of all, if your kid came to you and said, hey, mom, I want to go play basketball, you wouldn't take your kid on Thursday night to a basketball court and say, okay, go play. Right. I mean, that's fine. That's fine. But if you said, hey, I want to go play, I want to play in some tournaments, I want to play in some games.
I want to play on the team.
Yeah. I want to play on a team. You wouldn't just drop him off, right? You would find a team who has a coach.
Yep.
Right. And as we get older, apparently we lose that. And the biggest benefit that a coach has, and this is true, whether you are weight training, whether you are training for a marathon, whether you're trying to improve your career, whether you're trying to improve your marriage or as a better mom or dad, it is go get a coach. Go get someone who's been through it before, is an expert in their field, and they can have you skip all the years, all the failure. Like that's what a coach helps you skip the failure part.
Yeah. Yeah, it saves you so much time. Because, I mean, if you really think about, it's in life, you have time or money, and time is the one thing you will never get back. When that day is gone, it is gone. Money you can always earn more of. Time you can't. And the thing is, when you're aging and you're losing muscle, your body, especially women, because of this estrogen loss, our bodies really start to decline. And, to stop the decline and even reverse the decline, the sooner you can get started, the better. And the sooner you can get started doing something actually effective, the better. Yeah. Because it's not like, holding off you're going to be in the same place a year from now. You're going to be in a worse place.
So we've been talking about lifting weights, lifting heavy weights, whatever, heavy is for you at that moment in time. But what about a woman who she just wants to get toned?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is one of the big kind of, all right, we Gen X women have been taught from birth, it feels like, that low weights, high reps, feeling the burn, that's what's going to get you toned. And if you lift heavy weights, that is going to make you bulky.
That was going to be my next question. So I'm glad you're hitting on it now.
And the thing is, like, biologically, we just have muscle, that is what we have. But if I can do a tiny, tiny biology lesson, that your muscles are made up of different kinds of muscle fibers. And okay, there are 4 different kinds, but I'm going to talk about them as if there were 2, and that's enough for our discussion, the type 1 and the type 2 muscle fibers. And the type 1 muscle fibers are our endurance muscle fibers. And they're the ones where anytime we move, they're doing the majority of the work. And then you have the type 2 muscle fibers, which give us our strength and power, and also the muscle size. And those are the ones that when you're, going to lift something heavy, when you're getting up out of a chair or pushing something onto a table, getting that suitcase into the overhead locker, those muscles.
Is the example I use, by the way.
Yeah. And the thing is that as we age, we're losing the type 2 muscle fibers, not the type 1, but the type 2. And the reason why this is kind of an important thing that I wish everybody kind of knew, and I wish I had known like 10 years ago, is that most of these classes like Body Pump, F45 and whatever, if you read the fine print, they are training muscle endurance.
Yep.
And
I'm going to stop you there just for a moment. You and I we haven't met a whole lot. We've exchanged a little bit. I own a CrossFit gym. We do personal training. We do adult CrossFit, and we have a senior adult program. I would love nothing more I would love nothing more than to not have to train with barbells. Because barbells and big, heavy dumbbells, they are super intimidating. Women in particular don't feel comfortable using them. But you have to. And I compete. Down the street's an F45, down the street's at Orange Theory, down the street is a new boot camp. I mean, I compete. And I have a business mentor, I have a business coach, right, to skip some failures, right? And I tell him, if I could make more money selling snake oil, which is low weight, high reps, I could make a killing selling that. But I'm trying to sell results, right? And that's you come to my gym, you will get results. You come to my gym, I have a wall of pictures behind me of all the men and all the women, including middle-aged women going through perimenopause, getting toned, building muscle, looking great, feeling fabulous, and having lots of energy. So if I could just get you to say that one more time.
So these group fitness classes, I mean, all the body pump and the F5 and the Orange Theory, they are working muscle endurance. And they do say that on their website. And, they try to make it sound like you're taking care of your muscle and you're going to get stronger and whatever. And the couch potato will, right? If you've done absolutely nothing.
Absolutely. It's better than sitting on the couch.
Yeah. But it is not addressing those type 2 muscle fibers. And those are the ones that we really need, so that we don't need to be, getting assisted living, so that we can go walk across the street quickly when we're older. I mean, I'm 53, so I am thinking, I'm watching my parents who are, in the 80 plus minus 80, my mom, my dad, and how like weak they're getting suddenly. And I don't want to do that. So you got to take care of your type 2 muscle fibers. And about the bulky thing, yes, you will see online girls, especially young girls, who they show a picture of themselves. Hey, this is what I looked like before I started weight training, and this is what I look like now. And they are every Gen X woman's nightmare, because they look, from a Gen X woman's mind, what we've been raised on, they look perfect before they started weight training, and then they look like a huge bulky person afterwards, because our aesthetic is just different. But I want to just reassure women that doesn't happen overnight. That is like so much effort on their parts. And then they are younger and they have all the estrogen on their side. And I think a lot of them, they might, some of them are getting.
I know where you're going with that.
Yeah, but building muscle is such a slow process. And I would say to anybody who is afraid of starting to look bulky is take progress pictures at regular intervals. And I don't mean just pictures. The way I recommend you do them is you take kind of the same video of yourself where you're maybe in your bathing suit or shorts and a tank top or something that, is revealing, but you feel like some women are, exactly. And it's a video of you like turning around. So you see your whole body kind of more objectively when you see yourself on video. And at the point where you feel like, oh my God, I'm starting to look like too muscular or whatever, then you just switch into kind of more maintenance amount of weight training. So you don't work so hard on building more, but you still want to maintain your strength.
Yeah. Yeah. On this topic, the story that I give is not lifting weights because we're afraid of getting too bulky, which is specific to women. I've never had a guy ever say, I don't want to look too, I don't want my muscles to be too big. No guy has ever said that, but I liken it to, that's like me saying, I'm friends with a swim coach. My daughter swim and I know swim coach, but it's like me saying, hey, I don't want to take swim lessons because 4 years from now, I'm already going to be super busy and I'm not going to have time to go to the Olympics, right? And swim for the United States in the Olympics, right? So that's because, again, you just said, like, I will tell you that the women who come into my gym and start, they have their mirror moment, right? They have their mirror moment and they come into my gym, they start working out, they start lifting heavy weights, what's heavy for them in that moment. And then we build from there, right? They look better to themselves. They have more confidence. They feel better. And the best part is that they move better and enjoy their time doing active things, especially with their kids or with their, because either their kids at this point are young teenagers or a little older and they're going to still want to go skiing. They're still going to want to go hiking, right? And I'm just telling you, if you're not lifting weights, those things suddenly, that mirror moment becomes I'm alone in the cabin while everyone else younger went on the hike.
Yeah, no, that's really true. And then also things like when you become a grandparent. So I have one of my clients who is 50 and she's already a grandmother. And when we started working together, she's like, she knew that every time she saw her grandchildren, she would have a sore back because of lifting them and bending over and everything. Yeah. And I mean, they were like, we've been working together for a year. And now she's like, oh, it's so amazing because I can pick them up and my back doesn't hurt. And then she spends a week with the kids, like lifting, and they're bigger than they were.
Exactly.
Right? And they're going to keep getting bigger. And so she's keeping up with them. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Lynn. I really appreciate your time today. Well, let me ask you one question. This one last question. That I like to end my conversations with. If you can give your listeners only one simple action, okay, you only get one. I know there are a bunch, but if you only get one, what action do you want them to take today?
I want you to start strength training twice a week. And that can be as simple as 2 exercises for your lower body, 2 for your upper body, and it'll take you 15 minutes to do it, and you can do it in the comfort of your own home. It can, for example, for lower body, I would pick some kind of a squat variation. It can be a split squat. That's one that I start most people on. You don't need any equipment. It's generally fairly tough, even, with nothing. And then for, upper body, you could start with push-ups, which you can progress from going against a wall to then something lower and then lower. And so just that simple it can be, but please get started because you are getting weaker by the day, by the week, by the month, and you want to just put a stop to that. And it can be that simple.
Perfect. And I did not mean to do this, but I'll give a plug. I wrote a book. It's called 1 Minute Fitness. Okay. It's called 1 Minute Fitness. There are 12 chapters in here, but one of the chapters is devoted to weight training. So, and it starts you like you've never weight trained before in your life. You can't do it in your house. You do need to go into a gym, but here's how to do a back squat. We start with the air squats, right? And you can follow along. I think it's chapter 3. Again, I was not planning, but you can, this book, it's super simple, starting very, similar to what you just said of starting simple and just kind of easing your way into it twice a week. Is phenomenal. What is the best way that our listeners can reach you?
So probably on Instagram.
Okay.
And go ahead and reach out to me in my DMs. And if you want more information, about menopause, fitness and everything, then my podcast is a good resource.
Okay. And what's your handle on Instagram?
Oh my goodness. It's Be Fit After 40 with Lynn.
Be Fit After 40 with Lynn. And I'll put a link in the show notes.
Great.
But just for anyone and then your podcast, what's the name of your podcast?
40 Plus Fitness for Women.
40 Plus Fitness for Women. Awesome. Well, thank you, Lynn. Really appreciate the conversation and your time and wisdom today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yep. Have a great day.
You too.
Well, that's a wrap for today. Big thanks to Lynn for sharing her wisdom on strength training and perimenopause. If you're ready to take action, start lifting twice a week. Your future self will thank you. Be sure to follow Lynn on Instagram at BeFitAfter40 with Lynn and check out her podcast, 40 Plus Fitness for Women. Thanks for tuning in today. If you found this episode helpful, share it with a friend who needs to hear it. And as always, keep showing up, keep moving, and get after it. Have a great day.